Yes. Yes. She did.
Okay. So I will be educating you all on patients' rights, abuse, and neglect. So it is policy of Seaside to maintain, protect, and respect our patients' fundamental human, civil, constitutional, and statutory rights. So Progressive PHP's Bill of Rights is adapted from Title 28 of the Mental Health Law. And at check-in, the patients sign an admission agreement, and at that time, they get a patient handbook, which has the patient's Bill of Rights in the handbook. We keep written copies of the patient's Bill of Rights in all of their houses in the common area. And of course, patients and family members can request a copy of the Bill of Rights if they need it. So one of the rights listed on our patient's Bill of Rights is that they have a right to not be mistreated, abused, or neglected while in treatment. Hence the topic for today. So it is policy of Seaside to respect the individual dignity of each patient and ensure that patients are protected from abuse of any kind. Also, Louisiana state law requires that every patient will be guaranteed freedom from any type of abuse or neglect. It is required that employees report cases of suspected or observed abuse, neglect, abandonment, or exploitation. And that's of children and adults. For children, that's individuals that are unmarried or unemancipated persons who are 17 years of age or younger. And for adults, that's disabled adults 18 years or older with physical or mental incapacitation, or elderly persons who are 60 years or older suffering from the infirmities of age. As employees here, because we provide frequent and regular care, our services to our patients, we are considered caregivers. And caregivers can also be household members, guardians, neighbors, and employees and volunteers of facilities. Some of us as caregivers are mandated reporters, which means by law we have to make reports to the appropriate agency if there's any type of abuse or neglect going on. There's also a whole list of other folks that are mandated reporters, such as mental health and social service practitioners, members of the clergy, those teaching or child care providers, police officers, law enforcement, court-appointed special advocates, and organizational or youth activity providers, as well as coaches. So, long list. So now I'll talk about the definitions of abuse. And that's any non-accidental act or any willful act or threatened act that results in any physical, mental, or sexual injury that causes or is likely to cause physical, mental, or emotional health to be significantly impaired. And then abuse also includes acts and omissions, so that's doing, whether something is done to the individual or whether there was failure to do something. So I want to ask you all, based on what you know, what would you consider, what are some different types of abuse that you're aware of? Physical.
Verbal. Emotional. Financial.
Mental. Psychological. And sexual. Okay? So with physical abuse, that's affliction of any type of physical harm, such as slapping, beating, or excessive forms of physical restraint, such as chaining. You might see individuals with bruises, welts, burns, cuts, sprains, wounds, fractures. With financial abuse, that's material and financial abuse, consistent of the misuse or misappropriation and or exploitation of materials such as possessions, property, or monetary assets. You might notice that if the individual has unusual banking or unpaid bills, or unexplained loss of someone's property or money. Sometimes we experience that, sometimes with payees, when patients are getting their finances here and things are kind of going undone. And then with psychological abuse, that's affliction of mental harm or any psychological distress upon the person, such as insults, verbal assaults or threats, threats of physical harm, or threats of isolation. With sexual abuse, that's sexual activity for which the person does not consent or is incapable of giving consent. And that might also look like someone exposing themselves, flirtatious behavior, fondling themselves, or fondling other people. Now with neglect, there's passive and active neglect. And neglect in general is when a caregiver fails to meet the physical, social, and or emotional needs of a person. The difference between active neglect is when the caregiver intentionally fails to do so, whereas with passive neglect, it may be a matter of like caregiver burnout, so then they fail to maybe provide what an individual might need. And then there's also threatened harm. With threatened harm, that's a situation, circumstance, or behavior which may lead a prudent person to have a reasonable cause to suspect abuse or neglect has occurred or may occur in the immediate future. For instance, a child might state, he's gonna kill me, or my mom's gonna whip me. You know, they may kind of give some of those warning signs. Also, you may notice the individual may have some fear or anxiety about going home, because maybe if I go home, something's gonna happen to me. And then also reports of unusual types of punishment from that individual. Then with abandonment, that's when the parent, legal custodian, or the person responsible for the individual's welfare does not make provision for support and makes no effort to communicate with the individual. So they just completely kind of cut them off and aren't dealing with them. And then there's also exploitation. With exploitation, that occurs when a person uses manipulation, coercion, or deceit to take advantage of someone else for personal gain. It can involve various forms of gain, including financial, sexual, or personal. So there's financial exploitation. That's illegal or unauthorized use of a person's funds, or property or assets for someone else's property. That can include stealing money, forging a signature, misusing a bank account, or coercing a change in a will. With sexual exploitation, that can include trafficking for sex work, demanding sexual favors in exchange for necessities like shelter or money, or any non-consensual sexual act. There's also labor exploitation, forcing or requiring someone to work or perform activities that are illegal. And then criminal exploitation, forcing or grooming a person into criminal activities such as drug trafficking, shoplifting, or fraud. Now, when it comes to external situations, any employee who during the assessment process or through the course of the patient's treatment observes or suspects an abuse or neglect or abandonment, they're to report that observation or suspicion directly to the appropriate agency. This also includes knowledge of children in the care of patients whom is suspected may be victims of abuse or neglect. Of course, the immediate supervisor and attending physician should also be notified, along with following through with providing the appropriate information to the appropriate agency. The different reporting agencies include Office of Adult and Elderly Services, Department of Child and Family Services, the Abuse Hotline, East Baton Rouge Sheriff, Louisiana State Police. All of those are appropriate agencies. And then when it comes to internal situations, the process, and all of this is kind of based on our policies and procedures. Action should be taken immediately to safeguard the patient. So that's if something's going on like in-house. An administrator should be notified. The attending physician should be notified. The employee witnessing the event should fill out an incident report. The MD or nurse should assess the patient. And then a multidisciplinary note should be completed, including what happened, what safeguard was taken, along with any other pertinent information. Staff member witnesses, suspects, or discovers a violation of patient's rights due to abuse or neglect should report the incident to their immediate supervisor, and the staff member involved may be suspended pending further investigation, and it can potentially lead to termination if any type of behavior that falls along the lines of abuse and neglect is happening. Now, we do have an obligation as caregivers to do what's gonna be in the best interest of our patients. And then any additional information on this topic can be found in the policies and procedures. But as always, we just wanna make sure that we're providing good treatment, good care to our patients. And keep in mind, a lot of our patients are already coming from situations where they might have encountered some of these types of situations, so we just wanna treat them with respect and do a good job. That's all I have on that.
Great job. So I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Ms. Sheila's talking more about the patient aspect and how we treat the patient, abuse and neglect. Stop looking at your phone and look at me. Pay attention. It's gonna save your life. We focus a lot on what we shouldn't do to the patients, and we often forget about us. So I'm going to go into a little bit about what we should do. Ms. Sheila mentioned that physical abuse, we should never put our hands on a patient, right? Y'all can talk? Should we put our hands on a patient? No. We shouldn't put our hands on the patient. So my folks that's taking CPI before know that is false. If a patient is choking and you're getting ready to die, I hope you don't let them kill you. So we protect ourselves using CPI. If a patient curses you, you do not have the right to curse that patient back, because that's verbally abusing that patient. It's important for us to know that oftentimes we allocate for our patients, but we also have a staff responsibility to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. So you all know this. If you do something that's out of order, what are the patients gonna do? They're gonna come and tell, right? So the same way we have an obligation to report things, they have an obligation to report you too. So make sure you stay within the confines of the rules and follow the policy and procedure, because these things that Ms. Sheila talked about, they are twofold. And if you forget about them, I promise you the patient will make you remember, oh, you're not supposed to do that to me. And they often say this, y'all did that. Even if you are around and you're not in the conversation, it's y'all. Everybody gets the blame. So what are we here to provide? The best care, welfare, safety, and security. If we are providing that our patients get quality care, they want to come back, they're more successful in their lives. The moment we lose any of these, then our patient suffers. I always say this, you want to go home the same way you came. The best way to do that is respect the patients and they'll respect you. So we got to make sure we provide the best care, welfare, safety, and security to everybody that's involved. There are some supportive strategies that we use, and a lot with de-escalation. Y'all, that's the nature of our beast. It's our job to de-escalate things. There are times that we have administrative decisions that need to be made with patients that don't feel well. But our job is to provide the best care, welfare, safety, and security to everybody involved. So what do you mean then? If that's my favorite patient and they have to be discharged, they're not being discharged because Progressive don't like them. We don't admit folks to just discharge them. But they may be doing something that affects the safety of the facility. That includes you. That includes you. We forget about our safety. We got to make sure that everybody here is safe, patients and staff the same. So the first thing, stop. Do y'all have y'all devices?
Walking.
Yeah. Y'all have y'all walkie-talkies?
No.
Yes, no. That's why I'm here to talk about it. So everybody, we need to make sure that we have a communication device. Right, Gabby? All right. Y'all see the firemen, they come here, they always have a walkie-talkie. If you see them at Popeyes, they always have a walkie-talkie, and they're always together. It's important that we keep our communication. We have a variety of types, but make sure you have yours. The first thing too, code gray. Everybody know what code gray is? Y'all remember? A tornado. We may get one today. I don't know. We might. So if we have so if we have a tornado, we have to watch our warning and be prepared. Stay alert, take action if need to. If a tornado is coming here, we're gonna remove all of the folks that's in the modular buildings, take them out, put them in a secure location. It's your job to make sure that you are safe during a code gray. Normally the evening shift get a little bit more. Here in southern Louisiana, we have afternoon showers, so that's when we usually have the code grays. What about code blue? Medical emergency. So what happens during code blue? What's the first thing that comes up? What we do?
Run.
We go to run. We go to the code, then what? We wait on who? The nurse. We wait on the nurse. When the nurse gets there, what should we do?
Listen to the nurse.
Listen to the nurse. If the nurse said back off, stop, let go, call 911, that's our job, to follow the nurse. We are not doctors. Let the nurses do their thing. I mentioned this in group with the patients the other day. They always want to help out. But when the nurses get there, they had to move too. It's kind of difficult for the nurses to do their job when you got 50 million people all up on them. So our job as staff is to get everybody away. Yes, they're gonna curse you. Yes, they want to move. They don't want to go. But in order for that patient to get adequate care, we need to make sure that the nurse is able to handle that for them. Code black. Bomb threat. Should we use our cell phones? No. What should we be communicating on? Walkie-talkie? Very briefly. We will have one of those soon. We gotta be careful that your cell phone may be something to have that bomb to go off. So be aware of that. Don't be that person. You gotta let me see what's going on. We don't need to see. We don't need to be nosy. Which leads us to our next one. Code white. Code white. What is that? A combative situation. So when there's a combative situation, do we always take the patient down?